think this is the first time, Luke, where we're bringing together us with a guest, hopefully aligns super well with our audience, all about professional development. Our motto here is be better, know better, do better. It's really all about the do, the taking action. We talk about that all the time. All of our guests that have come on, even though they haven't been dedicated to the professional development space, when you think about their lives and how they became successful and in their own right, it really has all come down to what they were willing to do, the action they were willing to take to get there. So today's guest, Pete Schramm, loves bringing people together. He's got an amazing background. He's been with Lockheed Martin. He's supported the Army, and he has this startup, his new company, Lattitude, which Pete will tell us all about. We don't want to steal that thunder from him. He can do that better than any of us. It's all about taking a leap of faith, doing the do, going after it, getting after life the way that you should. My phone's ringing and I can't stand it. I forgot to put it on mute. I apologize, audience, for that. But anyways, let's welcome Pete to the show. And if you've never, ever put a piece of paper in front of yourself with a pen so you can take notes, this is the episode to do so that you can pause. And I mean that with all of my heart. These are recorded episodes. You can hit the pause button. You can rewind. You can listen again. Take notes so that you can be ready to take action on what Pete's going to share with us today. So with that, Pete, welcome to the show. We are so happy to have you here.
Bo and Luke, thanks for having me. This is exciting. Good morning and hello, everybody.
That's the way. That's the way to start a podcast. Absolutely. So, Pete, tell us, we talked before the show about many things, but I know there are a few things that we want to make sure that we get out there that we're going to talk about today. So share with the audience, a few takeaways that we're going to get after in the next 30 minutes or so.
I think we're going to work on world peace, solving world hunger, and actually, no, we'll do that tomorrow. Yeah. Sorry. Let's talk about how we can invest in our people and we can do something ourselves. Just add a little structure to this professional development, just like you talked about earlier. That's the name of the game. Okay, we all mention it. We all think it's important, but what can we do? Let's just think about who are the people we can talk to and what are the things we're going to talk to them about. Personal board of advisors, career map. Boom, boom.
Amazing.
I love this. All right. So let's start digging in right now. I'm going to start with what I think is the most important of those two, because it's changed my life, is the personal board of advisors. What the heck is it? How do you start doing it? How do you get people in your corner to do it? Give us some best practices and the lay of the land there.
Yeah. So what is a personal board of advisors? Think of this as a mosaic of mentors, if you will, a couple of different people that you're aligned with. I choose 8. Whenever I gave my TED Talk last year, I was like, we need to add a little bit more structure to this concept. So here's a little worksheet that you can see. What my brother calls it, the 9 pieces of 8 from the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. He's like, oh, this is fantastic. I absolutely love it. So anyways, you have a couple of different people that are helping guiding you in different capacities. You're like, why have so many people? Well, this is bringing diverse perspectives to everything that's going on. If you have just one mentor, like most mentorship programs, and they're assigned to you for better or for worse, I think typically for worse, I think you should find your mentor on your own. And you have to decide if it's a good fit for you. It's a true relationship, right? Yeah. The whole betrothed thing doesn't really work too well on that other love side, right? So anyways, we're getting these different perspectives from various kinds of people, from different backgrounds, right? Some within a couple years of experience, some, a few more years of experience. So that's really what this concept is, from a buddy to an accountability partner, your managers, supervisors on your board, functional mentor, cross-functional mentor, a sponsor, an ally, champion, a successor once you get there, and a coach when you need one. And there's other roles that you could have on there too, but the book doesn't really go into those details yet. Maybe round 2 will.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So how do you go about finding, how does someone go about if they don't have any mentors today, right? Do you discuss in the book or write about in your book that's coming out soon, like where they even start? Like what is step one? What's step
Yeah,
two? What's step
I
three?
told them that they had to listen to the Bo and Luke show and go back and see which guests were on there. And if anybody said, call me, I'll be a mentor, I'm willing to be on your personal board of advisors, then that's a great place to start. And I somewhat say that in jest, but not really,
Yeah.
because anywhere there's people out there that are aligned with your brand, your mission, your message, then it's worth a shot. So how do we get here? Jeffrey said, hey, Pete, you'd love being with these guys. I'm like, okay, sure, let's do it. I trust him. That's that warm referral piece. So warm referrals are a great place to find some of these people for your personal board. I've listened to podcasts in the past and sent a LinkedIn message, sent an email. Sometimes I hear nothing back. Sometimes I hear, yeah, let's do it. Let's talk. Let's connect. Right? Networking events are fantastic. Alumni events, if you're you've gone to a school that has alumni events. Networking events are fantastic. Yes, there is a whole chapter in the book about networking tips. It's something that I do for fun, but you guys have probably realized that I'm a bit of a weirdo, right? But it's like, hey, the more people I meet, the more people I can connect, the more people we can help. Like that fires me up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Luke, wouldn't you say, Pete, you make that comment about listen to the Bo and Luke show and all these guests, right? But I think you're right. And Luke, wouldn't you agree? All of the guests that we've had on, many of them talk about to the audience, hey, if you want to talk, reach out. Here's my contact info. We put it in the show notes. I think it's genuine. I think it's authentic. It's a genuine offer. They want people to contact them. So
all of them.
You're all of them. Yeah, you're spot on, Pete. And for everybody listening to this episode, by all means, go back. There's a description of each guest and what they're all about, what they've achieved. Just read the notes. And if that aligns with you, send them a message, reach out to them. I would almost guarantee that, within days or weeks, they will respond to you.
I agree.
That's fantastic.
And I love this, Pete, the personal board of advisors. And I like you giving out the number 8 as well. I think it's a good number to have. And I've been thinking, you kind of articulated a problem that I've experienced with mentorships in the past. And I think other people will too. Okay, well, they're step 1. Okay, I need a mentor. Well, if you choose one, there are problems that can come with that. Number 1, the biggest one in the room, is that being a mentor is an actual skill. So like I have multiple mentees and I have multiple mentors as well. I will be the first one to tell you there's an art to being a mentor, and I'm terrible at it. And I've been doing it for years, right? So not only that, am I like as one-to-one, I can't help people in all aspects of their life because I'm not good at all aspects of my life, right? But if I have a personal board of advisors with, let's say, 8 on them, I can pick and choose by what people's strengths are based on what I'm struggling with that week. And it's not just always about work. Some of it could be, how do I be a better father? How do I make more time how do I be a better friend? Well, out of your 8, you're going to find people where you're like, oh, I know Pete's really good at that. I know Bo is really good at this, and hit them up for what they're actually best at. I think there's a lot of cloudiness in having one mentor and saying, okay, well, I'm going to be that person. Well, life doesn't really work like that. Do you find that same thing?
Yeah, definitely. And the other piece is some people, that's cool. And they're all right with talking about things in work, out of work. But that's all goes back to our goals and expectations, right?
Yep.
The setting up that relationship. And as long as you say, hey, Bo, is it cool? Like I might have some things hitting the fan one day. And like I might ask about some of this. And most instances, people are cool with that. But again, it's setting the goals and expectations. What are we going to cover in this relationship, and how are we going to go about covering it? One of the people on the board is your accountability partner, and that's somebody that just calls you up and checks in on you for you. Right? We talked about some of those statistics before the show about how bad it can be, this loneliness piece. And, we've all heard about burnout. We've all heard about great rest, all those other pieces, right? It's an issue. And if we're not there for each other while we're, work from anywhere, WFX, as I like to call it, it's like, hey, we're in this thing together. Let's do this.
Yes. And I think, ego gets in the way of people reaching out for mentorships with all of us, myself included. I always had this big problem. I've gotten better at it, but thinking that I was super creative and that I know like the best way to solve something. And then once I got into my late 30s, I was like, oh my gosh, I do not know the best way. The best way to do something is to reach out to somebody that's already done it successfully and ask them how to do it. I mean, Pete, you played basketball. I remember the documentary I was watching about Kobe Bryant, and he wanted to know how to do Michael Jordan's turnaround jumper, where everyone's seen, where he pushes his back into the player and then does a turnaround jumper and sinks it. He's like, yeah,
I think there's a shimmy shake in there.
Yeah, too. A little shimmy shake. Yeah. And he's like, I asked Michael before a game one time, and he told me and he showed me how to do it. And then I started doing it. And I was like, Mike, it's that easy. And it's probably easier in business because you don't have all those other intangibles. Like, folks, listeners, just do me a favor. Stop thinking that you're super creative and you know the best way to do it. Somebody else has already done it. They've been successful. You can put your own spin on it. Like, feel free, be an individual and, own that. But at the same time, my gosh, reach out to somebody and just ask.
And Luke, what'd you say? Seek first to understand.
Yes.
Right. That's the biggest piece. Hey, will you be my mentor? Will you, do this for me? Do this for me? Hey, Bo, I just want to learn a little bit more about that stellar jump shot that you put together. It is nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think most people would be, don't be afraid to ask. Because I think most people would be honored that you're asking and you want to learn something that they know how to do or that they've mastered or that they have been successful at. And I think most would come across as happy to share or happy to do something for you to help you in your journey.
All of them are.
Well, I think all of them would be happy to, but there's a 14-point checklist that we go through, and it's kind of, is this possible? From can we pass the chug test? Right? Do we hang out with each other? Do I trust you? Do you have time? Right? Are you diversifying my board in some capacity? Right? Things we can see and things we cannot see, and so there, just because everything else might check out. If it's bad timing, right? Just like any relationship, then that can indeed be a deal breaker for it. And Luke, I wanted to just come back briefly on what you mentioned earlier with how do we put that balance and integration and harmony into our kind of professional routine.
Sure.
And on the career map that we talked to, there's actually a column. There's 4 quadrants for professional things, and there's a column for personal fun stuff, because what I've learned is it's important to put it all in one place, right? And visualize all this together. Okay, I'm going to get promoted. I'm going to do this, these skills, these educations, these other things, achievements, accomplishments. And here's where I'm building in a family trip. And here's where I'm going to learn this new hobby. And here's where I'm going to do these other pieces. Because, hey, let's face it, if we don't prioritize and defend that time, it might get gobbled up by something else.
100%. Absolutely will. I love that you mentioned that. And you're going to send me that sheet, right? I need it.
I can do that. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
I'll send you a copy of the book, too.
That's what I'm talking about. Thank you. I wanted to mention something. I'd love your opinion on this and just how you integrate it, because it's something I'm dealing with now that I think I'm getting better at. But it was like an epiphany to me. I'm sure other people learn this quicker. That, stressful work days and then how that affects the rest of your life. And I think in my late 30s, now I'm 40, I finally got to realize, I was like, wait a minute, I'm like chasing the dragon, trying to make work less stressful. It's never going to be less stressful. So what can I control? Right. So I got into a habit of really training my mindset to say, okay, well, I'm going to look at this in a different way. Instead of saying, well, today, today's going to be stressful. How am I going to get through it? I wake up in the morning and say, you know what? I'm going to kick ass today. And I'm going to be a great father and a great husband. And no matter what happens, I'm not going to let the stress get to me, because you know what? I'm just chasing something that I'm never going to get. Luke, you're never going to have a stress-free day. But why would I waste one day of happiness just because of external factors coming into my life? And I feel like you're kind of getting there with this, of the things that we can keep track of and the goals to set so that it doesn't throw you in a tailspin. Unless I read that wrong. What's your opinion on that?
I think mindset is everything. And I want to hear, Bo's take on this as well. and we are in control of that. And the cool part is we get a new set of 24 hours every 24 hours, right? And again, we can go through those tough times, but how can we break things down? And something that we talked in the pre-show about the working out piece, right? If you can sweat, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I sweat, there's something about it that it just like unlocks new levels of productivity and clarity. And it just, like literally you feel better. You're something is lifted off your shoulders. And I think a lot of people cut that out. I've been at fault for cutting that out before. The other piece of saying, hey, what doesn't need to get done? A practice that I'll go through on a monthly to every 6 weeks basis is review the last 4 weeks of my calendar and say, hey, how did you spend your time? And could you have done things a little bit differently? And looking at the next 4 weeks on the calendar and saying, hey, based on what we just talked about, do you think there's a couple of things that maybe could get delayed by a month, a quarter, or forever? Just delete it, right? And to have somebody else that's kind of there saying, hey, why are you killing yourself? And then also ask, right, are there artificial deadlines? And then the last piece I'd share on there is, there's, music is something that's a lot of fun for me. So I have a fun times playlist on Spotify. So I sing along to those different songs. We're getting all those fins going in the head. Absolutely love those power positions, right? Stretch your arms.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's great advice.
100%. Bo, how do you deal with mindset, man? Do you have any daily rituals or things you remind yourself of? Because your mindset is pretty on point, man.
Yeah, I do. And mine includes, it includes prayer. It includes time and faith. And ultimately, I wrote about this in my book, Luke, a few years ago. And I think this is what we're talking about, right? And you just said it. It's really about focusing on what you can control. Right. If you can get to the point and realize that there are things I can control, there are things I can't control. Yeah. The things you cannot control should not occupy any type of space in your head as far as creating a negative emotion, your stress, your anxiety, your anger, right? All of those have physical impacts on your own health, but you're creating it. You're creating it yourself because you're letting those things, you want a job, you didn't get it, right? You had no control over the decision makers picking you or picking somebody else. So you have to learn how to say, I had no control of that, but what I can control is my response to it. And I'm going to figure out why I didn't get the job. I'm going to spruce up my resume. I'm going to focus more on the industry, make sure my values are aligned with those company values. There's a lot of things you can do that you can control. And that creates different emotions, different thoughts in your head. It's what Pete talked about. Like when you're playing music, it's like you got to have these receptors go off in your brain, things that you can control. And I love the fact, Pete, I love what you said because it happens. If you're having a tough day, pause, find your favorite song that's energetic, maybe the one you would work out to at the gym or whatever, and sing to it out. If maybe hard to do if you're working in an office space, but
go somewhere. Me and Marisa used to come into my office, slam the door. Phil Collins goes on. I know what we have to talk about.
Yeah, it really does. It resets. It will reset everything in your. Yeah, it'll make you even choke on your coffee, right? It'll reset your mind, and then you're off anew, right? So it's like reset the day while you're in the middle of the day. I think it's those little things that really have a profound impact.
Don't sleep on those breathing exercises either. You guys ever do those? It might be so simple, but it's just like you're in 2, 3, 4, pause for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and then do it again. I like the 4x4 breathing square. And I'm like, what? No way. And then you do it for like a minute and you're like, yes, this is magic or something.
It's magic. It feels like magic. Yeah, absolutely.
I was at a seminar one time and they had one of the guys from SEAL Team 6 come talk to us. And it's like a group of 1,000 people. So like arguably like one of the most badass people that's ever lived. Right. And he starts off like how he starts off before he says anything is he gets 1,000 people in the room doing box breathing with him. And I'm
Yeah.
like, get out of here. He's like, yeah, my whole team, this is what we do. When we're going out on a mission and everything's important, we need to calm our mind first. We need to focus on what's going on, and we need to get rid of all the other trash that's thrown around our brain. So this is how we do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like they do the same thing that I do before a meeting when they go out like with their, with their service members and don't know if everyone's coming back. Like that's crazy how well that works.
One other thing, of a book, Psyched Up by Dan McGinn. It's one of the most highly recommended books that I share. He is, I think Dan's now the editor for HBR, so he knows a little bit about this, writing stuff. Anyways, the book Psyched Up talks exactly about that, Luke. Right?
Really?
What is it that people do before their biggest moments? What does Kobe Bryant do before he shoots a free throw? What does an anesthesiologist do before they go into the operating room? What do Bo and Luke do before they hop onto the podcast, right? How does the executive prepare for a meeting or a presentation before they go on the stage in front of those 1,000 people? And so I think it's really, really interesting. Again, not one size fits all. That's the biggest thing for all this. Do something, figure out what works for you, iterate, get a little bit better, and think of this journey as like a sculpture, right? Sometimes we're adding things that we like to it. Sometimes we're pulling stuff away. And through each of these jobs, each of these everything, you might pick up one little thing, throw it in the toolbox, throw it on the sculpture, whichever analogy you like, and pull away the things that you don't need. There's a quote by Bruce Lee. Maybe we'll say it at the end, but I'll say it right now. Absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and add what is uniquely your own.
Cool.
Bam.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah,
that is probably, one of the best quotes ever. Lends to getting rid of, it's the distractions.
Yes.
Discard it. Get rid of it. You have to. Got to do it.
Well, I'm getting psyched up right now. Tell me, Pete, so we had the second one. Was it Career Map? Was it?
Yeah, Career Map. So we have those couple of people that we're going to talk to, right? The personal board of advisors. I've abbreviated it to PBA, so you don't have to read as much. And those are the different folks that are going to help guide us. But, Luke, wouldn't it be pretty powerful if I had something to show them, right? Hey, you're maybe if you're actually looking at a map, let's see here. So here I am. I'm trying to get up to here. How do I get there, right? You ever do that, like back in the day whenever we had those map things, right?
Oh, yeah.
Heard stories about them, right? Who are those guides that are helping you on this journey? Same thing here. If you don't have something to actually show them, it gets to be a little bit trickier. So all that map is about is where you've been, where you are, where you want to go, and we add a little bit of detail to it.
I think that's great. It gives you a visualization, a hard copy visualization of where you go. And you hear people talk about it all the time, and I believe it's 100% true. Whatever you're focused on, whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're visualizing, those are the behaviors that'll come out, right? And that you'll work on. So the more work you put into your career map and actually visualizing what that looks like, you have your PBA that's helping you along the way. That it gives them your vision. It helps them be better mentors, I would imagine, right? If you're showing them this is my vision, this is what I would love to achieve in my career, whether that's a job, whether that's being an entrepreneur, starting businesses, whatever it is. My gosh, it's just what you call it. It's a map. It's going to provide the direction you need to go. I love it.
Does the map change very often? Because I think about like my own career and how it changes the more that I learn, right? But let me be very clear to the listeners. I've always ended up in a better spot than I was before because I do that. So like my personal one, I set out, I was like, I'm going to be in leadership. I'm going to be a VP and then a C level. As I got into my late 30s, I was like watching all my other peers around me, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, like they deal with so much crap that I don't want to have to deal with, that like I'm not excited about. So I was like, I am just having a ball being an individual contributor. Yeah. And then I went, like I took a leap at work. And so I talked to my leaders about this, right? And I said, so here's the thing. I was like, I was very blunt about it. I don't want to be beholden to 6 other people's calendars. I don't want to deal with the type of stuff that you have to deal with, but there's an itch that needs to be scratched for helping other people. Can I just keep doing what I'm doing, but then will you let me develop other people around me and make them better. And they go, oh yeah, absolutely. You can totally do that. And now I find myself in a position where I get to do what my career map would have originally said anyways, without having, I love it. Like, don't tell anybody I said, well, now it's going to be on the air, but it's like having all of the good stuff without any of the accountability for it, which is a wonderful place to be in. I got to tell you guys.
So as you guys were talking, I developed this piece of artwork. It might get framed one day, who knows? But remember when everybody said get a piece of paper out in front of everybody?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is, again, something that we can each do for ourselves. We can do for others. I'd love to hear, just a quick background on you guys, right? Hey, where you been, where you are, where you want to go, and thinking about past, present, future. Okay, that's our y-axis, the far left of the piece of paper. If you're just listening, I'm going to walk you through how to set up this first version of your career map. You want a tech tool and a career companion app, reach out to me, and we can talk a little bit more about that. Across the x-axis, top of the page, we're going to talk about our jobs, our roles, our positions that we've held. Next column, our skills and tools that we utilized in each of those. Then we get into the education and the certifications, achievements and accomplishments, and then the fun stuff. And what are we going to do? We're going to say, hey, here's each position I had, and I go across on that row. And then I go across, what I'm doing in the present, and then I get into the future. And this is where some people start scratching their head. And you can take a top-down approach, bottoms-up approach, hybrid approach, right? Just start putting some of those things on there. Where do I see myself as my next position? Option A, option B, option C. Because you guys have probably learned that things don't always go as planned, right? And it's also kind of helpful to start over on that personal fun stuff side and work your way from right to left, and help. What is it that you really want to do? And I like to ask the question, if money wasn't an issue, how would you spend your time? Though your bills are paid, everybody else around you, they're financially stable. You don't have to worry about that. What would you do with your time?
That is a big question. It's a great question, actually.
More podcasts with Luke, probably, but
yeah, something like that.
That's all I want to do is more podcasts with guys like you. That's it.
The 4-hour work week with podcasts.
Well, and it's so important. What I love about how you're doing this and what you're bringing out in people, is it gets what's important to them. And I feel like society kind of puts into a box what people should want. And then when when people ask them, they spit back out what they've been taught they should want, right? I had, so I was mentoring somebody. Again, I'm not a great mentor, right? So it's more of just conversations. And I was talking to a kid that was about to graduate from college. So it was inner city kid. So I was talking to this young man, and he, I think a question came up. Well, what do you want to be doing? And he's like, well, I don't really know. Like, it just kind of went around in circles. He didn't really know, which is totally fine. You're like 20 years old. Like, do we, any of us know what we want to do? And he's like, well, what about you? What did you always want to do? And I was like, well, I'm probably the wrong one to ask, because I was like, I got to be honest with you. I don't like anything I do with work. Everything I do for work is just for what I can do and accomplish on the outside. So if you ask me, it's just the means to an end. And like, what I'm doing is less important than what it allows me to do in my life. And he's like, see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. He's like, I didn't know how to articulate that. He's like, none of this stuff excites me about work. I really want to do the other stuff. I want to make music. I want to do this stuff, but I need money to do that. I'm like, well, dude, there you go. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, this is a means to an end. That's life. I may not be in love with it. Like, I don't know. I hate the phrase, what is it? Love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. Like, give me a break. For me, I don't like it.
Yeah, and I think that's where you need Pete and Latitude, right? Because you put those together, right? And even for the young man, right? You don't have the money today, but if that's what you really want to do, then put your career map together and get the right people involved in your life from a mentorship perspective. That, yeah, you may start out working a job, but then how much money do you need to put away? Because what are you going to set the goals? Like, what are you going to need to actually start your music career? All those good things, right? I think that's the whole purpose of the work, and all that we've been talking about with Latitude and this, the map to professional growth. That's the tagline, right? That's the
I love it.
subtitle to Pete, to your company. And I think that's why this episode, I think, is so important, right? You got to put the two together. And you're right. You may not be in a position today to do actually what you really, really want to do, but there's a process to get there, and then just focus on that process and go after it.
Yeah.
And there are things that we can learn from every one of these professional experiences, right? Say, man, I hate my job. I can't stand this. We talked about this on a LinkedIn audio event last night. I can learn what not to do in some of those instances. I might have maxed out on the technical skills and like the getting the work done piece, but now I need to focus more on those soft skills. How might I go into some of those stretch assignments, right? So there's opportunity for growth and development in a myriad of different capacities every step of the way. Before we go to the next piece, I wanted to ask Luke, what makes you think that you're a bad mentor? Because that's such a common thing that people say. And, sure, there's a little bit of self-deprecation, but like, help me understand why do you, because if you seems like you got some decent mentoring vibes going on and some listening to you.
Thank you. Oh, it's just because I haven't focused on it. So I'm really big on systems. So I like the author of Dilbert has a saying that says losers have goals, winners have systems. Which I absolutely love, because it's kind of like, well, I'm going to do this system, and then my predictable result is that I'm going to win, right? So I think for me, it's just like, could I be good at it? I'm sure I could. I just hadn't put in the time and the effort to put any form of structure into my mentoring skills, or to even understand like what a good mentor does, or how to keep a timeline with it, right? And I'm sure I could if I put together a system and focused on it. But that's why I say that, is I'm like, well, I'm busy doing the other stuff where I'm good at these certain things and I can pass on that knowledge. But teaching, like individual contributor things and leading are two totally different skill sets. And you could take, the best leaders might not be great individual contributors, and totally vice versa. And I see that, every day in life. So when I look at myself and be like, oh, I'm a terrible mentor, I'd say that's why, just because I haven't focused on it and develop the systems or put structure to it.
One quick concept or idea to think about are SMARTY goals. You guys probably heard of SMART goals. Everybody on here, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely, right? I like to put the why on there. Make sure they're for you, right? These goals are yours. Because like you guys mentioned earlier, a lot of folks are going to copy and paste. A lot of folks are like, oh, well, because this person did this, I have to go and do that as well. So the piece that I think you're going through on this mentoring guidance aspect, you're not recreating their journey, right? You're asking questions to them and helping them seek first to understand, right? And truly guiding, right? Just like we looked at that map earlier. You're like, okay, so if you want to get here, what makes you, say that? There's a little bit of coaching concepts in here. There's a little bit of the psychology in here. There's a little bit of the, kind of the 5 whys. You guys do any of the Lean Six Sigma stuff, right? Pull those skills out of your toolbox here, right? Oh, interesting. Why do you want to do this? Okay, what happens if you do it? What happens if you don't do it? Now, later, never, right? Ask those kinds of questions. Oh, maybe you should talk to this person who kind of did that and it wasn't for them. Learn a little bit about that other perspective, right? Again, diversifying, not recreating, but guiding and highlighting and kind of instilling the hope as well, right? You want to have a cheerleader. You can do this. You can do this.
That's great
100%.
advice. Yeah.
Yep.
That's amazing. I could talk to you all day, Pete.
Hey, I'm here for it. I gotta go to a lunch meeting in a little bit, so I'll throw you on the phone. I'll order something for you.
Darn right. I love it. Let's do it. Well, Pete, this has been amazing. Towards the end here, we give everybody a few minutes. Just talk about whatever the heck you want to talk about, Pete. Give shout outs, motivate people. I'm sure you'll have no trouble at that based on the last 35 minutes here. But this is now the Pete Show. So bring us home.
Start off. Thanks, guys, for letting me be here. This was a lot of fun. I enjoy it. Everybody that's listening, my purpose is to inspire potential and make it possible for you to achieve what you want to do. We kind of joked earlier that, I love networking, and anybody that knows me in real life, that's who I am. So I try to better the lives of those around me, and other people like skiing or going to the beach. Like, that is my jam. And that's why I started this company, Lattitude. So real quick, what it's all about is employee engagement assessments. Let's measure where we are and work with the data, and then recommendations from our scientists. And then we get into the what's next. You talked about a structure, Luke. You literally said, hey, I need Latitude in my life. Without that, right? It guides you through who to talk to, reminder of when to talk to them, prepare the agenda, pick up where you left off with the continuity for onboarding, mentorship, stay interviews, succession planning, manager one-on-ones, because I was frustrated with it. And I said, you know what? Everybody's telling me I got to do this stuff, but it takes so much darn time, and I forget about it sometimes. So I'll just solve this problem. And fast forward a couple of years, and a lot of good things are happening. And a lot more people are hopping on the train. They're like, we need this in our life. And so everything that we talked about today was kind of learning from the customer and learning from the partners and learning from different workshops and keynotes that I gave. They asked the question, hey, you're talking about this personal board. What is that? Right? What is an accountability partner? What is a sponsor? And the team kind of shook me and said, dude, everybody loves this, right? PBA for all. And they said, but we need to go back a step before we can get into this mentorship program. Not everybody's ready for that. So developing something of a career companion, right? A tool that people can learn and do. I was like, I think we can help more people if we do this. So by listening, we were able to get to this point. And yeah, I get excited about it. So, please, let's stay in touch. Everybody that's listening on LinkedIn, if you're just listening and you're not, I guess you'd have to click on something so you'd see the spelling of my name, but this is kind of funny. So I'll say it out loud for you. Easy way to remember my name is 2 emojis, peach and a ram.
Love it.
Say it fast. Say it fast, Luke. Go ahead. Say it fast.
Pete Schramm.
There you go. A peach and a ram. Go ahead.
Pete Schramm.
Pete Schramm.
Pete Schramm.
Yep. There you go, man.
See if you can find anybody else that can do their name with 2 emojis. Guys, this was a blast. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah,
Bone Luke Nation. Yeah, this has been fantastic. Perfect fit for our audience, for our podcast. We can't thank you enough, Pete, for joining us. Bone Luke Nation, you've been listening to Pete Schramm, founder of Lattitude. Go check it out. Go check out his site, golatitude.com. I think you'll find a lot of value there. Reach out to Pete, connect with him on LinkedIn, and we look forward to you joining us on our next episode. As always, shoot us some feedback. There's a feedback form on our website at thebonelukeshow.com. We always like hearing from our audience. We cannot do better if we don't hear your feedback, and we want it. We honor it. Good, bad, or indifferent. Please let us know.